Welcome.
Hey, this is Kevin Shinnick, writer of Star Wars Force Collector.
I'm Cameron Scott, one of the story architects of Star Wars The High Republic.
This is Dominic Pace, who plays Gekko the Bounty Hunter from The Mandalorian.
Hi, I'm Claudia Gray. I write Star Wars books.
And you're listening.
And you are listening.
And you are listening
to Star Wars Comics and Canon. The Force is strong with this one.
Hello friends, just a quick note to say what this podcast is going to entail. There's a first part which is myself and Megan recording when we're at the Excel Centre waiting in the queue to get into Star Celebration. Then the next part, Megan's a little bit tired, and then the final part is when Megan's quite nice and awake, and we talk about what we expect from Star Celebration and what we want, and then what we experienced from the first day, and then what we experienced from the second day. So the audio quality does vary a little bit just because, especially in that pre-part, we are literally surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of people. So just want to pre-warn that, but it's a really good conversation, really good fun with Megan. So proud of you for joining me on this, even though you are now part falling asleep again.
I'm not falling asleep.
Yeah, she is.
I'm waiting for you to do this so I can watch Come Dine With Me.
I know, my love. But yeah, friends, just thank you for listening as always. I will not be back at the end, but I'll put some details in the description. But just follow me on social media if it's your first time tuning in at Genuine Chit-Chat, and on Instagram and Twitter you can see some of the photos of the things that we speak about today. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy this conversation.
Have fun.
I wonder if you can hear the background noise.
And here we are at Star Wars Celebration, bringing you all of the news.
Don't talk like that. Waiting in the queue, sat down like peasants.
Like little peasant children.
Little peasant children on the streets of London.
But it's not the streets,
No.
from the XL warehouse.
Yeah, this is pretty opposite to being like homeless.
It's like a hangar.
It does feel like a hangar, yeah. The XL Centre is absolutely colossal. Like, you just think like how big this is for the queuing area, how big it's going to be for like actual stuff.
It makes me very nervous and anxiety-inducing.
Well, hopefully by tomorrow or the day after you'll be less
Desensitized.
Yeah, desensitized to the.
Well, no, because tomorrow's going to be
onslaught of
busier.
people.
There's still tickets available for today and Monday.
That is true. And also, we'll probably get used to it, and then we'll have Mitchell joining us on Sunday,
Yeah.
and then we'll do it all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you most excited for?
Dunno.
Cool. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll speak.
I'm excited about that cod liver tablet that's on the floor.
Yum yum. Why don't you eat it and see if it gives you superpowers?
Oh, yeah. Gets me into all the panels, that cod liver oil tablet, that one. Don't touch it. It definitely is a cod liver oil tablet. What am I
Someone's
most
going to
excited
step
about?
on it. Someone is going to step on that in this queue.
Oh, yeah, and they're going to fall, like on a banana peel.
I don't think it's big enough.
Are you talking about today or in general?
Both.
Right. In general, I want to meet Warwick Davis.
Well, that's hopefully a guarantee.
But I know that it's going to be super speedy, so I don't want to get my expectations too high for it.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, it's literally just going to be, here's a picture, snap, go.
Well, I think about 30 seconds is how much you get.
Yeah. So that will be fun. Otherwise, I'm excited to see all of the different costumes. And we're waiting, we're going to see how busy the queue is for the panel, aren't we, this morning? But otherwise, there's some travel, like tourism panels about where Star Wars has been filmed, so that will be quite cool today.
And one specifically about Italy.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see some of the places if you've been to them.
Her bag's got General Grievous on it.
Yeah, you'll see all layers of Star Wars fans. There'll be people who are comic nerds, High Republic nerds, Clone Wars animation, live action.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. On the train, there was someone dressed as Ahsoka Tano,
Yeah.
and the girl in front of me was like, "Who's that meant to be?" And then her partner was like, "It's Ahsoka Tano," and she was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, then her partner laughed, and then he was like, "You know, that Jedi in The Mandalorian, played by Rosario Dawson." I was like, "Also featured in the Clone Wars." That's probably where most people know her.
Yeah, Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah, you're no true fan.
Don't say that. No gatekeeping here.
I'm joking. Anyone's a fan.
Yeah, unless you're a Friends fan, and then they're not allowed to quote Friends unless they've seen every single episode.
It's not something I stand by Friends. It's something I stand by in general. It's like if I was quoting, "I'll be back," before I'd seen The Terminator.
You do that.
I've seen it.
If you can't remember it,
I can.
you quote.
He drives through the wall.
All right. Do you remember the? You do quote. What was it? It's not Get Back to the Chopper. There's another thing I say that's an Arnold Schwarzeneggerism.
Let's get back to the chopper.
Yeah, it's like...
I have never ever said that sentence.
well, no, it's...
Let's get back to the chopper.
That is not even close to how I said it. Let's get back to the chopper. No, it's... there was something that I said... I say it quite frequently at the moment. I do it in the Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. I can't remember.
Don't know. Doesn't matter. 'Cause it's not about Star Wars.
Not until Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up in Star Wars. Wait, I don't know if he ever will. That'd be cool, though.
The Schwarzenorian.
Right. Okay. Trying to think what I'm most excited for. Probably the High Republic stuff. That's my jam.
Yeah.
And get some stuff signed as well.
Yeah.
But the Monday is going to be the big signing day. It'll be C. Cavan Scott, Charles Saul, Daniel Jose Older, and Claudia Gray. It's a shame, and George Mann. It's a shame that Justine Ireland isn't here, because if she was, that means I'd be able to get every single High Republic book signed. And she's written 4 of them. But alas, maybe another time. But I'm excited to see Cavan Scott. I'm intrigued to know if he'll recognise me or not. You know,
Yeah.
I hope he will. But I also understand that I just
Maybe he
chat
will.
with him for an hour.
Maybe he won't. Be like, hi, I'm Michael Button of Genuine Chit-Chat. Here's my business card.
Well, he did. To be fair, he did record an intro for me. So
Yeah.
you know, it's a subtle way. It's also like, hey, I get someone famous to, you know, introduce my show, but also it'll probably make them remember the show more if they have to say it. So, yeah, High Republic stuff I'm most excited for, which is probably the stuff you're least excited for, of the stuff that we're specifically going to be doing.
Yeah, probably.
'Cause
Especially seeing as what the High Republic thing clashes with like the only panel that I would really want to go and see that day, which is about drag in Star Wars. So I'm like, okay, cool.
yeah, it's really annoying, and I'm really sorry.
All of the things that I want to go and see all clash with something big, which is really quite frustrating.
All the stuff, everything.
So like,
clashes
there's the
with it.
Lucasfilm announcement today, which we're not going to go see, so that we can go and see the tourism stuff, because tomorrow the High Republic thing's on, and I won't get to see the one that I actually want to go and see. Although we're meeting Warwick Davis tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I think it's a fair trade. Is that today we'll go to the tourism stuff that you want to see, and then in the
Yeah.
because the High Republic is just it's the only thing that I really want to see, and I'm so glad we got the Saturday tickets, because obviously Saturday had all the High Republic stuff, which I was surprised by.
I did tell you.
No, but High Republic isn't as big as like some of the other stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're waiting in the queue, seeing a few cosplayers, but there's a lot to see. Megan doesn't really kind of understand the scope of how many people are here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already stressed about the amount of people that are here, and this isn't even like... We got here an hour after you could start queuing, so we're here an hour before the place actually opens, and there's a shit ton of people already.
Oh yeah.
And then when you're walking to get into the queue, you know when you're like at a theme park, and there's not really a queue, so you manage to walk past all of the barriers and get to the front, but they haven't like done it so that you can go the shortcut way and you have to literally weave around everything.
Yep.
You see every single queue that is possible, and it's a bit overwhelming.
It's a lot. But it'll be fine. You know, the good thing is there's places, I know at the Anaheim one, there's like a quiet room. You can just go in there and have a breather.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember if there's one here or not. But in any case, you can just walk out there. Like when I was here before, I think when I was with Bradley and Jasmine, Bradley wanted a cigarette. So we just went out there's an exit somewhere on the back, and you just go outside and sit outside.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to do all that.
Yeah.
Although I am surprised there don't seem to be any Mandalorian related, like Lucasfilm panels. It might be because obviously Mando.
No, there is one.
Is there?
Yeah.
'Cause
There's one.
There's a making of Andor panel today, which I wouldn't mind seeing.
There's... Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, no, there's one from Doug Chang.
Right.
That's on Sunday, Chang. And it's designing Obi-Wan Kenobi and The Mandalorian.
Ah, right.
That's the only one that that's the only one that I wrote down anyway, because I made a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Classic Megan and her spreadsheets.
To be fair, Mike asked me to make the spreadsheet.
Well,
Don't start making it seem like I did that
I just know how much you like spreadsheets, so I thought it'd be apt. But yeah, it's because there's the Andor one later on today, which is the making of, which I wouldn't mind seeing.
I don't have that one written down.
I'm not. I'm happy to just kind of
You
float
didn't
about.
add to my spreadsheet like I asked you to, so...
I forgot I was busy.
So was I.
Yeah, but I was doing like podcasty stuff.
Yeah, and I was doing other stuff.
I know. But I appreciate it anyway. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on. Going to see a lot of cool cosplayers. Go to a few fan
My
panels.
mission is to find someone dressed as Kit Fisto and have a picture.
Or at least a Nautilus. Kit Fisto would be
Has to be
ideal.
Kit Fisto.
I mean, you might be able to. You might be lucky, but it's going to be hard pushed.
For a green tentacle man.
Well, there will be, if there's some High Republic cosplay, which there will be, there's a High Republic character who is a Nautilus, like Kit Fisto, who is also green and is a male, but he had his tentacles cut off. So,
Rookie.
his name was the Herald.
Rookie error. Cutting your tentacles off.
He didn't cut his own tentacles off. He was severely
Okay, well, Mike,
abused,
I
I think.
want a picture with Kit Fisto.
Okay, we'll try and find him.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think it'll be enough for now, because otherwise we'll just waffle in the queue. Got about half an hour till we go in. So, yeah, all good fun. When we have quiet moments, we'll somewhat keep this thing updated, or we'll just record in the hotel room. Who knows? But friends, thank you as always. I'll speak to you soon.
And may the force be with you. Bye.
And so, for the next part of our Star Wars Celebration coverage, which was really just the first part of the Star Wars Celebration coverage because we recorded our thoughts before even going in. We've had a very busy day. It's so busy, in fact, Megan is falling asleep.
Megan's trying to go to sleep. I think our neighbours are Spanish.
Yeah, we're currently recording in the hotel room, and, well, not hotel room, what would this even be called?
I think it's like a flat block. It's like a studio flat, but you can pay to have adjoining rooms. And so we've got an adjoining room, clearly, but it's locked, so you can't go in there.
Yeah.
But every so often we hear
Random
voices.
Yeah, and the door isn't sealed very well, so you can hear people outside, cars, people.
It was not an expensive accommodation. Well, for London, it wasn't expensive.
It was pretty cheap. Yeah, and it's fine. It's not an issue. We're not going to tell you where it is, but it's basically like someone's got quite a big house, and they've basically split it into 8.
It's near Redbridge.
Right, we don't need to delve any more into that, but it's basically the house is like, it's a fairly big house that would be comfortable for a large family, and instead they've basically split it into 8 parts. So the bottom is 4 and the top
there's
is
lots
4.
of different apartments. This is a very small.
Yeah, like the thing we're staying in right now is probably about the size of what our lounge.
Well, it's a studio apartment, and it doesn't even have a have a hob or an oven. So we've been cooking sausages in the microwave
to take with us next day to Star Celebration. In little sausage sandwiches with some fruit and protein bars. This has been all very good fun. But Megan has been having some horrendous burps with a lot of sausage breath. And then we were watching an Andor panel and she kept burping and I was trying to hide it. And it wasn't working. It was just making it fester and linger for longer. Fortunately, no one was near us, so it didn't matter.
The sausages have made me very gassy.
Every hour or so, you just either you hear something or you smell the sausage again. It's like, it's not me, and I don't think anyone else is eating Costco Italian sausages. So it's got to be Megan. That's what it is. It's all good fun.
I can't believe you just said that.
It's funny though.
Every so often, Mike would look at me.
Every so often I would just glance at her and squint ever so slightly. And she'd know that I knew. I got burping into a t-shirt at one point to stop it. It didn't help.
Every so often, Mike would look at me and be like, "Have you just burped?"
And the answer was yes. Every time. But we're not here to talk about Megan's fruitful burps or how they were smelling. So if anyone was at Star Wars Celebration and was at any of the panels that we're about to talk about, and you could smell...
You were in the Twin Suns stage during the Andor thing. You could smell rancid sausages.
Yeah, you could smell like gone off sausages. That's a big one. Sorry guys.
The sausages just didn't agree with me.
I think they agreed with both of us. We were both fine. We haven't had like a bad stomach. It's just that Megan's been
It's just made me gassy.
Very gassy. But anyway, this isn't the gas podcast. This is actually meant to be a Star Wars Celebration podcast. God. So for day one, we didn't go to the Lucasfilm Showcase panel. Because of where we were in the queue when we got there, we were like, we're probably not going to get in. And rather than going there, queuing up for ages and then not getting in, we decided to go to 2 other panels that Megan was quite interested by.
Yeah.
So one was on the fan stage and one was the university stage, which are both sort of fan-led. Well, the fan stage is proper fan-led, but the university stage is kind of like, yeah, they're fans, but they're kind of known in the Star Wars sphere. So the first one was Star Wars Locations, and there were 4 individuals there, and I can't remember all the names, so apologies, but one was a member of the Norwegian 501st.
One was called James. One was called Mark.
one was Jeanette.
And then the other ones, I don't remember.
One of them was a Dutch
One
gentleman.
was not from Norway, and one was from Dutch.
I think the Scottish. Was it the Scottish guy?
What? He wasn't Scottish.
Wasn't he?
He was like from Blackpool.
That was okay. Blackpool was northern-ish.
So there was an English guy, a Dutch guy, a woman from Norway, and an American.
Yeah. And the gentleman from Blackpool, he is the creator of Bantha Tracks, I think it's called. It's basically a Star Wars locations thing. So the whole panel is all about locations in Star Wars, and they were all involved in going to where Star Wars is filmed in a variety of ways and trying to find places that
I would say that
specific shots.
That panel felt kind of awkward.
It was a bit. It did at times feel a bit awkward. And
the Dutch guy would say something, and then the American guy would be like, "Yes, okay." So moving on. It's like okay, there was no banter.
Yeah, there was no banter at all. But it was still enjoyable. It was still very informative.
It was interesting.
And no slight on them. I just feel like there almost needed to be someone there to kind of.
I think some of them were nervous. The woman from Norway was her first time, and she was really nervous.
It was one of the funny. It's kind of one of the contradictions almost of being a nerd is that most nerds are generally introverts, yeah. So most nerds, not all of them obviously, but a lot of nerds generally become nerdy because either they're not very popular or whatever. I'm quite charismatic and quite extroverted, but I am also a big nerd and I wasn't that popular at school and things. I'm not saying nerds can't be popular, but usually the reason people go into alternative media is because they don't want to do what the mainstream stuff is doing, and a lot of the time it's because of either mental health issues or social issues or whatever. But it's just quite a common thing that nerds are not always very extroverted. And obviously when you're hosting a panel about something which is Star Wars locations is quite interesting, but it doesn't in itself it's not the most exciting subject. You have to kind of oil the gears a bit, and I feel like this is now going to make me sound like a right dick, but like if I was doing it, I feel like I could have added a bit more kind of thing.
Could you know?
Well, it's only because although I have very little talent and not much knowledge outside of random Star Wars things, I do have quite a lot of charisma. And as even when we were watching the other one,
uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Yes, it's just one of those things that I'm pretty good at. Like I've never been called boring. That's one thing I've never been called. I waffle on and I drone on about stuff, but I've never actually been called flat out boring. I'm not a boring person to talk to. I may talk about boring things, but I'm not a boring person to talk to. But these people, they're really interesting. They were talking about, we learned loads about where so much of all the films were shot, or the series. There's loads obviously in Tunisia, lots of desert stuff. There's loads in the UK and in Scotland, especially stuff from Andor. And it was just really interesting. And we found out that parts of Mustafar, were heavily inspired and edited versions of the Mount Etna eruption in Sicily.
Yeah, and I've walked up Mount Etna. Yeah,
there were certain places you already knew about, like in The Phantom Menace, the big palace is actually a palace in northern Italy. The middle of Italy,
sorry. And there's a part of Naboo that's in Plaza de España in Seville.
Yeah.
That's Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, so there was certain bits when you also Solo: A Star Wars Story was part of it was filmed in
Southampton.
Yeah, in Fawley Power Station, which has since been demolished. Not because of Solo. I think it was going to be demolished anyway, and then they got in there before that. But it was really interesting hearing. There's a lot of cool stuff that I didn't really know about, and they did have some quite funny anecdotes and things like that. So they were really trying. No slight on them. It was just they clearly.
And also, they're just a smaller panel. We went and saw that instead of seeing the Lucasfilm one. Everyone else was seeing the Lucasfilm one.
Yeah, it's like the biggest panel.
There was barely any people in there. I mean, it was a bit of a shitty slot for them to be given, to be honest.
Yeah, it was almost just for something for people to do while almost everyone else is at the Lucasfilm stuff. And I was umming and ahhing about the Lucasfilm thing because what I didn't want to do is ask cute, because Megan was really interested. There's only 3 panels over Star Wars Celebration that really grabbed Megan. 2 of them were today and one of them is tomorrow. But the one tomorrow is drag in Star Wars, but it clashes with the only panel that I refuse to miss, and that's the High Republic panel. It's literally the only one I've been talking about.
And then these 2 panels that we went to today clashed with the Lucasfilm one. I was like, this is what the fuck is this?
Megan took effort and looked at all the panels and stuff and said,
I made a spreadsheet.
She was like, these 3 are really interesting to me. And I was like, those 3 are the only ones that clash with anything. So when we got to Star Wars Celebration, I thought, well, because Megan's spending 4 days doing this thing primarily for me, and especially because she's missing the drag one, which would probably be her top choice because of the High Republic thing, it's fair to watch these things for her. But also, I knew that the Lucasfilm panel, although there's a little bit of stuff that has not yet been released, most of it is just announcements. And literally, when we were waiting for another panel, which I'll get onto in a minute, we had about an hour to kill, and I was just on Twitter, and there was a couple of people, I think Force Center, Star Wars Explained, and a few other people on Twitter. They were doing threads during this hour and a half Lucasfilm presentation. So you just go on their Twitters, and you can just see literally word for word what was mentioned. But yeah, so we saw the Star Wars locations, that was really cool. And then we saw a second one, which is Star Wars Made in Italy, which obviously is Megan's half Italian. That was quite interesting to her, and I have an intrigue in that kind of thing. And there was these two chaps who are from Libri in Comics, I think they're called. And they're basically this group of, there are two chaps there, but there's a group of 8 of them, I think. And they are like heavily responsible for a lot of the Italian Star Wars stuff. So like they push for a lot of comics to be translated. They have a lot of communication with a lot of the Italian individuals in Star Wars, primarily a lot of comic book artists like Paolo Villanelli, who I spoke to on Genuine Chit-Chat last year, Giuseppe Camuncoli. There's loads of them. They went for like 10 or 11 comic artists. They spoke about in more depth the detail of what was filmed in Italy, because in the Star Wars locations, the first one, it was like a general overview and lots of lists of where things were filmed and a few photos, whereas the Italy one really honed in on the history of the Naboo, the temple they used in Naboo, the more details we said about Mount Etna with the Mustafar stuff, they detailed that in the Made in Italy one. And there was the, what's it called, the Dolomites? The Dolomites. So it was one of those things that I found it really interesting, and it was obviously quite a bit of comic book stuff, and you found it quite interesting even though you're not very fussed about the comics as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be more about locations, and then it went into comic books. Excuse me.
About half about locations, half about comic books.
It was 15 minutes of locations.
Oh, really?
20 minutes of locations. Yeah, the rest of it was comic books.
I suppose they did finish a little bit early, didn't they? So
yeah, it was interesting. I found it quite interesting. So
yeah, and so we had that, and then we wandered around. We had a look at some of the vendors. There were a couple of places that were so busy. It was just
it was a bit stressful. It was a bit anxiety inducing, the amount of people.
But only in certain places. There's like choke points to certain places. There was like certain areas which were so rammed you literally got stuck in a gridlock, and then other places you're completely fine.
The problem is that they haven't got a system in place for walking around. So if they had like a one-way system,
or even just people,
if you just have to keep to the left if you're walking in a direction, then it would have been better. But
yeah,
they don't have that. But I guess it's difficult to control that amount of people,
especially when there's lots of cosplayers walking around and you've got little interactive droids and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
like, we saw R2 a couple of times.
We saw Chopper.
Yeah, that was really fun, and lots of other cool things. So I saw like a protocol droid that resembled 000. Got a photo with them. So loads of really cool. The cosplay was good. I think the major cosplay is going to be on Saturday and Sunday. Both those are sold out, so it's going to be a lot of cosplay stuff, a lot of High Republic cosplay stuff. But we bought a couple of fun things. I bought a Chrysantin, otherwise known as Black Chrysantin, Funko Pop. Because he debuted in the Afro Comics, and I love that. And I said I wanted to get at least one Funko Pop or one collectible to remember Star Wars Celebration, so that was fun. I got a Max Rebo t-shirt, which was cool. Megan got a sticker as well.
I got a free sticker.
Because she was being very enthusiastic at the Making of Andor panel, which we'll get into in one sec. And then we also...
I bought 2 t-shirts. I bought an Camp Endor t-shirt, and I bought a Twin Suns t-shirt.
Yeah, it was like it's a Mos Eisley silhouette kind of one. It was really cool. They're both really cool t-shirts. So
yeah,
you got a couple of those.
Some badges.
Yeah, some pin badges. You got the 3PO and 2 Ewok set for the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary. So that was fun. And then tomorrow I'm probably going to buy a few variant editions of the comics, and also on Monday I'm going to get a lot of things signed. But the 2 other things to talk about is the other panel we went to, which is the other main panel of the day. I say main panel that hosted by Star Wars Celebration themselves, was the Making of Andor Series 1. It was an hour long, and there's 3 panels at Star Wars Celebration that show the really big things. There's the Celebration stage where everything is live and you've got all the people coming out, and then the Twin Suns and Galaxy stages stream what's being shown in the Celebration stage to Twin Suns and Galaxy. So we were in the Twin Suns stage, and beforehand the he was like a master of ceremonies. He was like an MC, like trying to get the crowd all hyped up. And you were like, you were being quite enthusiastic, and we were quite far back. I didn't think we'd get a sticker, but he was like, okay, I'm going to come to the back now. And he did.
And then I went
straight
nuts, and he came over and he was like, I hear you. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, give me my sticker.
So Megan got a sticker for being so enthusiastic.
And then
Star Wars.
there was a guy in the row in front. He was like, oh, what? He was like, what did you get? And then I showed him. He was like, that's really cool. And I was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Show before
My
show
sticker.
But then it was an hour-long thing about Andor. There was Tony Gilroy on stage, Kathleen Kennedy, Diego Luna, Nicholas Patel or something, who's the music guy.
There was a guy called Luke.
Then there was Luke Gilroy, who's Tony Gilroy's brother, who's the editor and producer. And then there was one other chap whose name escapes me, who's the costume designer. Oh, and there was another guy, sorry, there's a costume designer, a set designer, or the main two guys who sort out the costume and set designs. The composer...
There were 7 people on stage altogether.
Kathleen Kennedy, who's obviously Lucasfilm CEO or director or whatever it is, she's very high up, the highest. And then obviously Diego Luna, main actor, and Tony Gilroy, the showrunner. So it was really cool having their different perspectives, and they went through series 1 of Andor. We got like a little recappy thing that was really cool. And then hearing about their experiences, some of the locations, and the themes that they did, how certain things worked out, whereas like, we had constraints of extras in this scene, but then we realised that actually makes more sense story-wise if there are less people in this scene, and therefore we actually changed the script, and that worked. And they talked about the dam in Scotland where they filmed a lot of Andor.
Yeah.
Loads of really, really cool stuff. And then we got a little teaser of season 2 of Andor.
Well, we can't tell you because it's a secret.
Fortunately, it's a teaser. There's not really much shown in there, but we won't spoil it anyway. It will be released at some point, I'm sure. But when we came out of that, we were both saying, like, I loved Andor. You know, I think Andor, apart from Rebels, is the best Star Wars show, and it's arguably the best piece of Star Wars content that exists, I'd say, along with the original trilogy and Rebels. But man, after watching that, I was just like, I just want to watch Andor again.
Yeah, it did make me want to watch Andor as well.
Because you obviously like Andor. When we did our Mando review yesterday, you said that you think you enjoy Mandalorian more than Andor.
Yeah, because of Grogu.
Yeah, but like, I think that kind of shit, when it reminds you how good it was, and I think that if we watched Andor again and we didn't have to watch it like week by week, I think you'd probably enjoy it a bit more.
Maybe.
Because you lose some of that wind.
Much like now.
Yeah, I have made Megan record at 10 p.m. and it was a very long day.
It's gone 10 p.m, mate. It's 25 to 11.
Oh, that's pretty late. But the last things to say are the announcements for Star Wars Celebration. So there was an Ahsoka trailer, a teaser trailer that was released, which we have since watched, and so people should go check that out. And you know, furthering my view of everyone needs to watch Star Wars Rebels. That's all I'll say about that. There's been new movies released, which there's 3 of them. One's going to be Dawn of the Jedi, 25,000 years prior to the Skywalker Saga. One's going to be something connecting with all the Mandalorian and Ahsoka shows and all that sort of stuff. That's by Dave Filoni. And then there's going to be another thing which is going to be set 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker. And there's a certain cast member that's confirmed to be in it. So that's all quite fun, all good fun stuff. Acolyte's going to come out 2024, which is the show I'm most excited for. Ahsoka's out August 2023. Skeleton Crew's out later in the year as well. And the Acolyte, they apparently showed some footage for that, but we didn't get to see that, and we probably won't until a full trailer's out. So that is a roundup of everything from the first full day of Star Wars Celebration. We'll try and do something like this again tomorrow, and then probably Sunday, but we will see.
Well, we definitely will, as long as it's not 10 o'clock at night.
Okay, well, next time we'll do the recording before we watch a movie.
That's fine.
Cool. But thank you, friends, so much for listening as always, and obviously thank you to Megan for agreeing to come to Star Wars Celebration with me, and also to doing these podcasts. I do hugely appreciate it, and I appreciate you, especially when you get so excited by it all in the day.
Yeah, I like it. It's just draining.
Oh, it is. Convention is draining.
It's just tiring, and my body aches. Every time I move, it hurts.
Yeah, I know, my love. And we've got another 3 days of it. But yes, and tomorrow's going to be more busy. But thank you, friends. We really appreciate it. I'll release this episode I'll figure out. But friends, we appreciate you, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Bye. This is you.
No one could see that. Oh, God. You get a bit pitchy there, my love.
We saw someone playing that today, didn't we?
We did actually. We saw a bith, which is the species, with a weird little instrument actually playing it, and loads of people watching around him.
Yeah.
And the song itself is actually called "Mad About Me," and the band is Figrin D'An and the Modal Nodes. Fun fact. Megan's look at me, so unimpressed then.
Yeah, you weren't even like Megan. What a lovely rendition of that song.
It
You
started
just
off
looked at
pretty
me and you were
lovely.
like, that's a bit pitchy.
I didn't say that. I thought that, but I mean, it started off pretty good, but then you started about an octave too high. So when you had to then go up a few notes, you couldn't quite reach it.
This is the way.
Nice. But when we saw the bith there, I was like, oh, it looks like Figrin D'An. And you're like, who? I was like, okay, sorry. But yes, Star Wars Celebration Day 2. It feels like we've been here almost all week.
Whoa!
But it's only actually 2 days. So today, it was more of a mic-centric kind of day.
Yeah.
So we started off...
Disgustingly early.
Yeah, we left the accommodation at 7 to get there
We got
before
there
8.
So openings at 10, but you can start queuing from 8.
Allegedly, and
We
apparently...
got there for 8.
Apparently on the website it says you're not allowed to queue before 8. We get there at 10 to 8, and apparently they let people start queuing at 7,
Yeah,
which is really bloody annoying.
Although that was the person that told us that was a bit of a tool, so...
He was a bit of an odd one. I don't think I told him about the podcast, so hopefully he won't find this, and if he does, maybe... Sorry, bro. But it says there, if you actually queue up before then...
Where is it?
They said like, they literally won't let you in.
It says that they'll put you in prison.
I think that was more of a joke, but it still says you can't queue before 8, and then we get there at 10 to 8, and they already started queuing, and there were loads of people in front of us. So we were there queuing for 2 hours before the place even opened. Fortunately, we met these two lovely chaps who I completely forgot to take any of their social media details. So one is Ken, and one is Jamie. So if you're out there, friends, please
If you're
reach
listening
out.
to us,
Please reach out.
hello, because Mike gave you his card.
Yeah, I did. I actually
played
gave out...
Sabacc with you.
I think I gave out like 5 business cards today, which is quite good.
Yeah, it says here, overnight queuing and camping is not allowed, and you may be sent to detention block AA23 if you arrive too early.
I think that's a Star Wars joke, AA23. I think
That's me being like, they'll send you to prison.
Yeah, it's like...
AA.
In fact, that might be the one from Andor. Are you gonna... I thought it was dead air.
Detention block AA23 Wikipedia.
Was the thing in the Death Star. That's where Leia was held, wasn't it?
Oh, well, how embarrassing.
You thought it was real.
Yeah, I thought it was real. I thought they were going to take you to like a little prison if you queued up too
They
early.
just won't open the door. They wouldn't let open the door, and as soon as someone gets in there, like, we've got you. We've got you, enthusiastic fans.
Down.
I know, they were doing a little jokey joke.
Yeah,
but anyway,
fair
so we get there early, and we wait in the queue, and as I said, Ken and Jamie were lovely. We were chatting to them for pretty much the whole 2
we
hours.
spoke to them pretty quickly, and then we
They're
spoke
really cool
to them
guys.
very, very briefly and quickly, and then Ken asked if we wanted to play Sabacc.
Yeah, so
Because he had cards that he bought from Galaxy's Edge when he went to the States.
Which,
so...
to be fair, I'm actually tempted to try and find some of them at Star Celebration if they got them. It's a
was
really
fun.
cool game, and it was like...
But yeah,
it's
we
quite
basically
simple.
we were in the queue for 2 hours with them,
Yeah.
and we played Sabacc for maybe like an hour and a half and just chatted, and then after that we just chatted, and then we went in. It was really pleasant. It made the queue go really quickly.
It was really, really cool, and we kind of started a little thing because we sat down, and Jamie and Ken, before they started talking to us, were like, "Oh, should we sit down?" And then they sat down, and then we just kind of watched. It was a Mexican wave.
That's actually how the conversation started, because no one else was sat down.
We were like the only ones.
And I was like, we were walking into the thing, and I was like, I'm not standing up for 2 hours. And I was like, is there anyone else sat down? And this guy just was like, well, I'm going to sit down. And I was like, okay, well, you and me together then.
Yeah.
And that ended up being Ken, who we ended up sat next to and spoke to for the whole time. And it's solely because I made a comment about whether or not people were going to sit on the floor.
Yeah, and so we did. So if you can hear weird noises, we're staying in an accommodation. It seems like all our neighbours like dragging chairs across the room for literally like 5 minutes.
And also the accommodation, you can get... I think we said this.
You said this yesterday, so I wasn't going to say about the people next door. But
I was sleepy. I was sleepy
Yeah, the
yesterday.
people upstairs are being very loud. They were dragging something around for like 5 minutes, and if their room's anything like the size of ours, I don't even know how. It would take like 30 seconds to drag it from one end to the room to the other. But so apologies if you hear weird noises. I'll try and edit them out if possible. But yeah, not that weird. But yes, that was quite cool. And then we spoke to this chap who has a German podcast called Bucketheads.
And again, we started talking to him because of me.
Yep, and I gave him my business card as well.
Well, no, he
took
gave
photos.
me his business card.
Because you said about the Euro teacher.
He overheard that I was learning German.
Yes.
For work, and then he has a podcast in Germany
in
about
German.
Star Wars that's in German.
Yeah.
So he gave me his business card, and he was like, "Oh, you might be able to improve Improve your German.
To be fair, if you did listen to a German Star Wars podcast every day, you probably would actually improve your German.
And then I spoke to him in German, and he said that I had a good accent.
Someone just tried to open our door.
Yeah, this is the thing. Someone's trying to open the door that's attached to our room.
Yeah, to be fair, we did that when we first moved in, so it's the curiosity of where does this magic door go.
I think they must have.
Oh, it sounds like a child doing
fucking kids here.
They were the ones who were making the noise last night. When you were like, after the podcast and you like fell asleep, or like were falling asleep during the podcast, then I stayed up and tried to read a little bit, but I was quite tired as well. And at that point, the kids were being quite loud, and I was just like, oh, this is too late for me. Why are they awake? Anyway, but yeah, so I gave him a business card, we spoke to it, because that guy was like, oh, is it okay if I take a photo of you guys playing Sabacc? Because I've not seen it before. Like,
yeah, and we didn't get a picture of us playing Sabacc, but he gave me his business card, so I'm tempted to message the
like,
Instagram handle and be like, hey, you took a picture of us playing Sabacc.
Yeah.
Could you send me the photo, please?
Yeah, so then we queued up really early because we wanted to get into the Ahsoka panel. And so this, it was a bit of a palaver. So we went into a queue. We got there pretty early, but we were like right at the back of this queue to go into one of the streaming stages.
We were one of the last handful of people that got into queuing.
Apart from a few people in accessibility, no one got in for Twin Suns for ages.
So one of the streaming rooms.
Yeah. Well, I think we detailed it yesterday. I'm not going to delve into all that. But basically, if you didn't win the lottery and get a ticket to get in, which we have got one for tomorrow for Sunday, for the Villains of the Sequel Trilogy one, but the thing is that if you don't get it, you have to basically queue up in a place, and it's like there's no guarantee we'll get in, but you might do. And when we did that for Andor, we got in easily. But
Andor was at 3 p.m. It wasn't the 11 a.m. The ones in the morning are the big ones.
Yeah, exactly. And with this Ahsoka one, it was we were in the queue, and then everyone was getting a little bit antsy as it got closer and closer to the time of it starting. Then it got to 11 o'clock, and then the queue still hadn't moved at all. Like literally,
also during this time, we've got a guy next to us that will not stop talking.
Yeah, and he's
nice enough. He
openly said he was autistic.
Openly said that he was autistic, but even before he told me that he was autistic, I was like, this guy is autistic.
Well, he's a massive nerd, which is fine, but the problem is that he was constantly talking about stuff he was interested in, which was things like Critical Role and Vox Machina, which we aren't that into.
And Arrow.
And the Arrowverse, which I actually do not watch at all. But then anytime we spoke about ourselves a little bit, he would kind of either lose interest or start talking about something else.
Although he said that I was doing the Lord's work because I'm a teacher.
Yeah, but he did like to keep reminding everyone who came near him that he'd been going to Comic-Con for 15 years and it's getting expensive, and I was like, okay. But that was fine, but it was quite annoying because it was the one day we're like, let's get up early, let's go to the really early panel. So we got up really early, we go there, waiting in the queue for 2 hours to get in, then to wait in another queue for Ahsoka for another hour, then we were waiting 20 minutes after the panel started.
Yeah, this is the issue
that annoyed me.
This is the issue that I had with it. So I don't care about the queuing, that's not a problem for me. My issue is the lack of communication from the people that worked there.
Because a guy kept coming up and talking to us.
There was a guy that kept coming up and just having a conversation with the guy that was stood with us.
Yeah. He seemed nice enough.
He was nice enough, but just the lack of communication and updates. Like, he would come over and be like, I have no updates for you. And it's just like, okay, but the panel's going to start in 5 minutes. How do you not have any updates?
Yeah, and it was like, it takes more than 5 minutes to... Because we queued at the same stage yesterday when we went into Andor. So I was like, from now... If they let every single person in this hall in, it will take like 15 minutes for us to even get to the stage.
And also because it's upstairs. But
yeah, I'm like 3 flights of stairs.
Then the other thing is that Mike's got all of the things on Twitter, and then he could see that the panel had started. Like, it was like, they're on stage, they're talking about Ahsoka, blah, 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 blah. It started however many minutes ago. And then the guy came over, I think at this point it had started like 10 minutes ago. And we were still in this queue, and I was like, I don't understand how they can possibly... let us in to watch the streaming when it started 10 minutes ago, because by the time that we actually even possibly get in there, again, considering we're at the back of this queue, it's just not plausible. And when we said it, we were like, the panel started 10 minutes ago. The guy seemed surprised. He wasn't aware. And I was like, what? Like,
it started at 11 and it's on the celebration
So Mike and I
stage.
bailed. We were like, fuck this. We're leaving this queue. Loads of people were like, oh my
really?
God,
Are you
we're
really
leaving.
leaving?
The guy who was working there, the volunteer, was like, if I were you, I would just take the risk. And I was like,
but there
isn't a risk because we're not going to get in. There's not going to be space. And if we do, it's going to be over halfway through the panel being done. And it's just like, I can't be bothered. I would rather go and get a coffee, have a second to breathe, and then go and queue up early for the next panel that we want to go to so that we can ensure that we get in.
Which we did.
We did that. We left the queue, queued up for a Costa.
Cheeky Costa, sponsor of these Star Celebration videos, because the Mandalorian one we did as well, we had Costa and driving.
So yeah, we went and got Costa. We got into the queue, and we ended up talking to this really nice guy.
Yeah, Kieran. He was a really, really cool guy.
Really nice. And then we had really fucking good seats for the High Republic panel.
It was brilliant. And like, Megan's not much of a fan of the High Republic because she's only
It's
read...
not that I'm not a fan, it's just that I haven't...
You've read one book.
It's not... I've read one of the books, yeah, and I know what happens...
In broad strokes.
But it's not a TV show or a film.
It's comics and books. So.
Yeah, so it's not really content that I've absorbed, but
it was
from what I've read, I've enjoyed.
But it was the one thing I said to Megan before we started Star Wars Celebration. I was like, the only thing I am desperate to see, the only panel I cannot miss is the High Republic
The
panel.
hilarious thing is that it clashed with the panel that was to do with like drag and
in Star Wars.
which would have been really cool.
Which would have
been really, really cool.
I would have actually really liked to have seen that.
But the High Republic took precedence.
It was the only thing I said to Megan. I was like, I don't care about anything else. If we miss other stuff, I don't care. It's the one thing of all else I cannot miss because I'm desperate to see it, and I'm so glad. So we went in the queue and we spoke to this guy called Kieran, who's lovely. He's on Instagram at the Avalon Legion. He does like minifig painting and stuff like that. And he was such a lovely guy.
Yeah, he was really, really nice.
So sweet. We were chatting because we were queuing up again about an hour before the panel, and he was really nice.
To him for like
one of his mates came and chatted with us for a bit, but his mate had never read the High Republic, so he just, when the queue started moving, this guy left. But he asked about the podcast, took a business card. Kieran asked about the podcast, and Kieran seemed so interested by this the Star Wars Comics in Canon / genuine Chit-Chat, like really genuine. Like, some people are asking, you can kind of tell they're asking to be nice, but he actually was asking like follow-up questions.
He was also just getting excited about certain aspects because just
what I kind of do, and he was like, well, I don't have time to read all the comics or all the books, things like that.
It got to the point that I ended up just going on my phone because they were just in depth in conversation. I was like, I can't contribute anything here because you're talking about stuff that I've not done, I've not read.
And it was really nice chatting with him, and we were just in the queue with him the whole time. And then if people, I'd say people check out on Instagram, because that's where I've posted quite a few Star Wars pics. There's a pic of us with him because we sat next to him in the High Republic panel. It's like a really green tinted photo.
There's two pictures. Well, there's only one on your Instagram, but there was two photos. One of them's like red, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes me think of a picture that you take with someone when you're in a nightclub.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one was like bright green, so it was like one or the other. It was as the High Republic panel was starting, but the High Republic panel was so cool, and we heard all the High Republic authors talking. We heard about the next like 2 and a bit years of publishing of all the books. We got the names of them. They introduced Alyssa Wong, she's the current author of the Dr. Aphra comics, which I adore, and she's written a few other bits and pieces, but Dr. Aphra have been like kind of linking in with the High Republic loosely. She's joining phase 3 of the High Republic. They told us about some exclusives that are coming out, lots of really cool, interesting things. And it was a really fun panel, like for you as well, for someone who isn't really into the High Republic. You said you really enjoyed it.
Well, it's not that I'm not into it. It's just that I've not consumed that much content of it because it was
2.5 years of
reading.
content.
But I enjoyed the panel. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And I thought like the banter that the people on the panel had was significantly better than the other ones that we've seen. Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
And then we got to see something which we missed in the Lucasfilm showcase, which was the first showing of the Friday, which obviously we decided to go see the Star Wars locations thing and the Made in Italy thing, which I'm really glad we did go to the smaller panels because they A, really appreciated it, but B, we learned loads of cool stuff about where Star Wars was filmed. But in the Star Wars like Lucasfilm showcase, there was like an hour and a half of loads of stuff, and in that they showed a teaser for The Acolyte, and I was like, The Acolyte is like my number one most anticipated show, more than any more Mandalorian, more than Ahsoka, more than any animated stuff. Like literally, The Acolyte is dark side stuff mixing with the period where the High Republic turns into the prequel era Jedi. So I was like, I'm so hyped for The Acolyte. I know very little about it. And right at the end, they turned off the live stream for the people watching at home for High Republic. And is the live stream done? Are they done with the live stream?
And then right. Special stuff on.
Now, here's a few extra things. And it was so cool. And we got to, like, we heard from the showrunner / director or showrunner writer person whose name escapes me, but she's the lead of The Acolyte. And then she said what was amazing is that she got to cast her wife in the show and brought her out on stage, which is really cute. And the Acolyte trailer looks so good, and I'm so hyped for it. I just can't even explain.
Leslie Headland is the showrunner for the Acolyte series.
Yeah, and what's amazing about it is like, It's been announced. It was meant to be an exclusive for that panel alone, but people took photos and then put it everywhere, which is quite annoying because they specifically said.
It pisses me off, and they have bouncers going around to double check. Like the guy who was like entertaining us before the
panel started was like, I don't know, obviously it probably is true, because why would he lie? But apparently 3 people have been kicked out of Star Wars Celebration because they've not followed the rules, because they were filming.
They were recording stuff.
It's just so dicky. Just be there to also, like, just be there to enjoy it.
That's what Kieran said, the guy we were sat next to.
Yeah, like, why do you want to you be on your phone? Just enjoy the whole fucking reason that you're there.
Yeah, exactly. And they even said, like, in the High Republic stuff, they were like, okay, there are points in which you can take photos, things like that, but if there's certain things on the screen, you can't. And literally before they cut off the live stream, because obviously the live stream you get to see everything anyway, when they cut off the live stream, they said, right guys, this is like super exclusive, please, no photos, no videos, no nothing. And then literally seconds after the panel ended, people posting about it, and it's like, that's quite annoying, because it doesn't necessarily take away from us, but it is like, it's meant to be an exclusive for Star Wars Celebration, even if for only like a week or two beforehand. But
it's not even that. It's also
disrespectful.
It's just disrespectful. Just follow what the person's asking you to do.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
it doesn't, I don't understand why you feel the need to have to take a picture or have to film something.
It's social media following. It's like some of the people who did it are Star Wars podcasts and things like that. And it's like, obviously, if you're the only person or one of the only people to post this exclusive, loads of people are going to be following you going, oh my God, that's so cool, and commenting and blah, blah, blah. So it's really annoying because it is basically, you're not really doing it for everyone else. You're kind of doing it to... You know, you're risking your own slot in Star Wars Celebration to take a photo basically for likes and follows, which is quite annoying to me, because I could have done that. My show is a lot smaller than most other people's shows, and I could have copped out and done that, but I want to respect where I am. And it feels quite annoying to me in a lot of ways, where some of these people take these shortcuts you're not literally told not to do, and it kind of works out. But that aside, it's basically, the reveal is, it's a minor spoiler for the Acolyte, Venestra Rowe is going to be in it, and she's one of my favourite characters from the High Republic, and I actually got a photo with a cosplayer. And
it's funny because she was sat in front of us in the High Republic panel, and she was giddy when they came out with that announcement. She was literally jumping out of her seat.
Shaking and jumping. And I even said to her before it started, because we got there, we got in like 15 minutes before the panel started and stuff, and they started letting people in. And I said to her, I was like, your Vanessa Rowe cosplay is incredible. And she was like really, really nice about it. And then I found her later on when there was the High Republic meetup, and I got a photo with her. So that's on my social media as well. And I think her Instagram feed is Happy Campers Cosplay, I think it is, and they've only just started posting and things, but she was so lovely. And I said to her, I was like, you've really got in before anyone, like, because Vanessa Rowe, she's a main character of the High Republic, but she's not in pretty much any of the adult books. She's only in one young adult book. She debuts in the junior novels, which I think are banging, and I think the junior novels are actually some of the best Star Wars High Republic stuff, but they normally get overlooked. But Vanessa Rowe is like such a cool, interesting character, but she's just like in the junior novels, and the Acolyte is specifically aimed for a more mature audience like Andor is. So it's quite interesting they chose that character, but super hyped about that. That was really cool. So we saw the High Republic panel, and then there was some High Republic signing at the Forbidden Planet booth. So
that was a ball.
That was a bit of a mess. Nothing against the Forbidden Planet people who works there.
There was one guy there in particular who was fantastic, and I said thank you to him specifically.
If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have got it signed or anything like that.
But it's basically they haven't announced properly that what you're supposed to do is you need to go to the Forbidden Planet area to collect a ticket in order to then go back later to queue up for signing.
Because you only give out like 50 tickets, really.
Yeah.
Because the authors
but they haven't made that announcement. They haven't made that aware.
Nope. Not on social media, not on
like there was literally no. And also someone was there the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
And they were like, they didn't do this yesterday. So obviously it's just something that they've done because obviously it must have been chaos.
They should just put a sign up, which is annoying.
Well, there's many situations where they put a fucking sign up. Like when we went to Costa and I couldn't scam a bloody app, they should have put a sign up. But that's regardless.
But that's minor compared to like actually being unable to do it. Because
but anyway, like
one guy really helped us out.
Yeah. So it's because I kicked up a fuss. So we got
in a calm British way. You weren't being mean.
No, I wasn't being a dickhead, but I was just being forceful. So we got there. We don't have tickets, and I was like, okay, well, is it possible for us to queue up regardless? And if we get in, we get in, and if we don't, we don't. Like Mike was like, we don't have to queue up. Like if we can't get in, and I was like, no, don't worry about it. Like we will just queue up, and if we can get in, then we can get in. Because I was the one that started this conversation. There was a guy, an American guy, that was in front of us. So I was like, right, you go in front because you were here first, and then we will be next. So we managed to do that, and we did manage to get your stuff signed.
Yep.
But that's only because I was mildly forceful about it. I was like, well, that hasn't been announced, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Like, can we just queue up anyway?
Yeah, and it was like...
Then there was an American woman that worked for that store, and she was a bit dickier. She wasn't
Bit more short.
She was much shorter than the.
As in not height-wise, as in being short. She wasn't just a short woman.
She was slightly ruder than the other guy.
The other guy was British, and as we often say, like unfortunately, one of the things of being British, and more specifically, I think the English. And to a degree the Welsh, is we are over polite.
It's not even so much that he was over polite. He wasn't over polite. He was trying to be forceful. He was showing authority. He was being firm. So it wasn't even a case that he was being polite. He was being too polite. He just, I think, has a better way with words.
Yeah.
The woman came across as quite rude and abrupt. And I don't know if that's because she was more with the author's signing and he was specifically Forbidden Planet. But yeah, like she came up to us and was like, are you the end of the ticketed? And we were like, no, we're the start of the non-ticketed. And then automatically, as soon as we said that, she was like, okay, well, you might not get in. And it's like, okay, but there's still 20 minutes.
Yeah, there's only like 10
and also
people
I can literally see the first author.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just around the corner, so we're going to make it. We had like, by the time Mike got his stuff signed, there was still another 10 minutes.
Yeah. And so quite a few people, and I managed to get, and what I've done is I got some Star Wars postcards for Christmas in a calendar that my mum got me, and I've been ripping that up per month, but then I had an idea, which I wrote a personal note to each of the High Republic authors, basically, so when I get the stuff signed, I can give them this little postcard they can kind of be a keepsake, because a lot of the High Republic authors, although at Star Wars Celebration it seems like quite a major thing, when you think about it, the High Republic is still quite minor, and even at the High Republic, like, even at Star Wars Celebration, it was one room, whereas all the other shows, you know,
it was one room. It was a big room.
Yeah, but it wasn't the biggest, and it wasn't like streamed anywhere else. It was streamed online, but it wasn't like, you know, the Ahsoka stuff or Bad Batch or anything like that. Like, because it's all printed and comics, it's lesser known. So all the High Republic authors are always saying how much they appreciate the fandom and people making effort and cosplaying. So I thought it'd be nice and kind of memorable for some of these authors that while they're having somewhat of a stressful day, especially in signing, where they're just being given book after book after book to sign, it would be nice for me to write, you know, to whoever.
Well, I mean, Claudia Gray was ill as well. She had laryngitis.
And she still went. She could barely, at the panel, she barely could speak. So Michael Siglain had to take over. But obviously, Claudia Gray I had on the podcast. Kevin Scott had on the podcast. I'm getting stuff signed by Kevin tomorrow. But with Claudia Gray, like I said to her, I was like, oh, you on my podcast a little while ago? She was like, oh, yeah. So she was like nodding. And I said, I don't know if you remember, it was about 2.5 years ago. And she was like, oh, yeah. Whether or not that's true, if she remembered, who cares? But it was really nice. And when I gave her the postcard, she like looked really like taken aback by it in a good way, and she was like, because she could barely talk, she was like putting her hand on her heart, right, doing gestures to say really thank you. And also I said I bought this graphic novel that's non-Star Wars after our conversation because she recommended it and things, and I got her to sign that too. So she was like really appreciative, and each of these postcards I've written, I've like personalized. I'm not just gone to blah blah blah, High Republic's great, I love it, thank you Mike. You know, I've specifically attuned it to each thing they've released, and I did it for George Mann, who's only just kind of entered the High Republic. And he was like super chuffed by it. He was like, oh my God, thank you so much. This means a lot. And I said to him, I was like, I know you're only new into it, but the content I've read of yours is fantastic. It's as good as the rest. And I really love the fact that you're part of this initiative. And he looks really emotional about it. And it's like a lot of these authors, you know, if you're a star, like anyone who is in a Star Wars movie, you'll always get people coming up to you and saying, oh, I love you in this. But I think the authors kind of, and some of the comic book artists kind of get overlooked. I mean, I have more followers than some of the comic book artists. How insane is that? Like, I have more followers on social media than some of the people who literally draw the comics I review. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But it just shows how overlooked they are. So that was really nice getting that stuff signed. And then shortly after that, I bought a couple of comics that was cool, some variant ones. That was good fun. And then we went and got a photo op with Warwick Davis.
Yay!
Because I bought that for Megan as a treat, because obviously she's agreed to do this 4-day Star Wars celebration thing when she likes Star Wars, but obviously nowhere near as much as me. So it's much more of a me weekend. So I wanted to buy a little something. And obviously Warwick Davis plays Wicket the Ewok, which is Megan's favourite Star Wars character. He's also obviously in all the other Star Wars films as well, which is cool. He's also Professor Flitwick in Harry Potter.
And Grip Hook.
Yeah.
And like another goblin as well.
Yeah, and he's great. And he's, you know, essentially he's British acting royalty, really, in my view. Like, he's done so much for the film industry, and the fact that he's like a little person and has done all these amazing things like Willow and stuff, and obviously our tortoise, Wicket, is named after Wicket. So I got a photo op with him, and I'm glad we did it. It was cool. We shook his hand, and we only got about 15 seconds with him.
It was
so quick.
It was unfathomably speedy. Like, I'm really glad that we did it. I'm really, really happy that I got to meet him, got to shake his hand, got to tell him about our pets. But like Mike did that, he spurted it out. It was just too fast. Like genuinely, you go in, you put your bag to one side, you walk in, they say, right here, cheese, snap, right next. It was so disgustingly fast. Like I obviously know how much it cost. Mike paid for it. He also paid a slightly extra so that we could also get the digital copy in case anything happened to the like original print, which is really good. I'm glad, I'm happy. But it is insane that it cost
nearly 100 quid.
Nearly £100 for literally less than 20 seconds. Yeah. It is insanity. And then when we were queuing to go onto the train to go back, we heard I heard someone talking about photo ops and like behind me, and they were talking about whether or not it's fast or whatever. And I was like, it is really quick. We had one with Warwick Davis, blah, 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 blah. And then there was a guy next to me and he was like, yeah, I had the same experience. I had a picture with Hayden Christensen, and he was like, and it was done in like less than 15 seconds. And I was like, and Hayden Christensen one was like £230.
Yeah, it was insane.
Like,
Same as Ewan McGregor.
It's a ridiculous amount of money, and it's just extortionate. I just don't understand how they can justify allowing people to spend that amount of money for literally seconds.
Yep.
It is ridiculous. Like I said to Mike, what they should do is just I know it obviously would make less money, but not everything's about fucking money. Like they should have less slots available so that you can actually have a conversation with them. Like I'm not asking for like a 5-minute conversation, but for me to just be able to say, thank you so much for everything you've done. Harry Potter and Star Wars both mean a lot to me. Like Wicket especially means really a lot to me because it's one of the things that really got me back into Star Wars, and it's what you and I bonded on. Our tortoise is named after Wicket. Like just being able to say that without having to say it in one fucking quick breath.
Like I did with the Our Republic authors. Like when I got them signed, it was a bit of a rush, but I had a minute or so with them, so I could actually say those things.
Like even just give me a minute, like give me a minute and a half max to just say thank you for like
why we got this
and
photo.
why we got the photo op. Like I feel bad. Like there was one guy that we saw who had maybe like 6 or 7 photo ops. Like he was showing
probably
like
cost like £1,000.
the person. He must have spent an extortionate amount of money because one of the ones that he had was with Ewan McGregor. Like, and that one in itself is £230. So it's just like it's just ridiculous. That wound me up a bit.
Yeah, nothing.
But it's nothing against Warwick. I was really happy to meet Warwick Davis, and I got to shake his hand, which I'm super happy with, and I loved it. And I'm so happy and appreciative that Mike got us that. I just don't think it's right that they can charge people that amount of money for something that literally lasts seconds.
If it was like 20, if it was 30 quid, I think it was 30 quid for people who are at the lower tier, because like there were essentially 3 tiers. It was about 70 quid, which was Warwick Davis, Dennis Lawson, who played Wedge, who I was tempted to get, and a couple of others. And then there's middle tier, which is like 130, 140 quid, which is like Giancarlo Esposito, Mads Mikkelsen, some of the middle people. And then there was the upper tiers, which were 180 and 230 odd quid, which were like, you know, Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, Ashley Eckstein, who obviously plays Ahsoka in the animated shows, who is, you know, very important to Star Wars. But the fact that she costs so much money, like nearly 200 quid.
She is. She's a voice actor.
Yeah, so it's like the photo with her, in my opinion, isn't as recognisable in a lot of ways as it is with, you know, Warwick Davis or Hayden Christensen. So also, my view is that I think autographs should cost more money, because an autograph, you can resell that. There's no way we could resell the photo of us with Warwick Davis. No one's going to buy that.
Would you like this picture of these 2 random people with Warwick Davis?
Exactly. Whereas autographs, like if you get someone to sign something and they autograph it and don't say to whoever, that will then increase the value of said thing. So I understand with autographs, if you want to charge extra to try and discourage people from scalping or from getting loads of stuff signed and just selling it off, I can understand autographs costing more money, because also, from what I've heard from other people, autographs, and what I experienced at the High Republic signing,
you get more time with them.
While they're signing stuff, you can actually talk to them. So if you give them 3 things to sign, you get maybe 30, 40 seconds.
And don't get me wrong, I fully appreciate that it is a long day for the people that are doing these, because like looking at the schedule, just using Warwick Davis as an example, because that's the person that we met. Warwick Davis was doing autographs in the morning from like 10 until 3, and then he went straight to photos from 3 until whenever that finished, and then he's doing autographs again tomorrow. So I completely understand that it is also a really long day for those people, but it upsets me that it's kind of like the whole Moana thing, really, like Disney making a Moana live action when it's completely unnecessary. It's just them trying to get as much money as feasibly possible, and the frustrating thing is that they know that people are going to pay for it because fans love it. And as a franchise that's like, yeah, we love the fans so much, it's kind of infuriating,
especially because how much it costs to get into Celebration. It's
this is the thing. Like, we've already spent like a good £250 to go to Star Wars Celebration each,
plus travel, plus accommodation,
plus accommodation, plus food, plus like I mean we've been taking food with us so that we don't have to spend it at the XL Centre, so we've saved money that way. But then like plus merch, like I mean I bought 2 t-shirts and some pins that cost me £90. So like I'm not trying to be like, oh, this is all the money that I've spent, but it's just frustrating that they can charge that amount of money for an autograph or for a photo.
Yeah, as I said, photos I think should be worth less than all, especially if it's going to be that quick. It should be worth less money, and it should be.
I don't even have a problem with the price so much. It's the fact that it was so fast.
I think if it was only 30 quid though, you wouldn't be so fussed about it being so quick. It would be somewhat expected. But it's like if it was 30 quid for lower tier people, 50 quid for mid tier, and then maybe 90 to 100 quid for like Ewan McGregor or Hayden Christensen, I'd get it. But like, spending basically 250 odd quid.
But I mean, with the Ewan
photo with Ewan McGregor, and especially because you're going to
with the Ewan McGregor one, you weren't even allowed to stand next to him
or touch him or anything.
You weren't allowed to shake hands with him. You weren't allowed to stand near him. You had to be stood on the other side of an R2D2. Well, on the other side of R2D2, because of COVID regulations for the film that he's in the middle of doing. So there's strict like germ stuff. But the people who had that only got told the day before, which is ludicrous. It frustrates me. I'm really happy that we did it. I'm super, super jazzed. I'm so happy that I can say that I've met Warwick Davis. Mike got to tell him about our pets. So like, that's great.
And he said he
that he had a dog called Wicket and a tortoise called Willow. So that's great. I just wish there was enough time for me to just kind of gush over the person who I genuinely love, Warwick Davis, so it's a bit saddening, but it's great. It was great. I loved it.
We're hoping if he's at the autograph table tomorrow.
He's at the autograph table from 10 until 1 or 10 until 2 tomorrow. So earlier we got to meet Wedge Antilles.
Yeah, Dennis Lawson. I just went up to him and said, because no one was there.
No one was in his queue, so we just went up. Mike got to say how much he appreciated him. So I'm hoping that maybe some point tomorrow, Warwick Davis's queue might be less busy or none at all, and we can just go up and be like, hello, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done, because you're great, and then I can have my piece.
Yeah.
But if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Because you'd expect, because a photo op costs more money, and because it's a photo with the person, you would expect you get more time with someone to have a photo than
it's
you would
genuinely the fastest photo I've ever had done ever.
It's faster than if you and I are taking a selfie by ourselves somewhere.
It was faster than me having
photos.
Well, it was faster than me having my picture taken at prom.
Yeah, exactly. It's insanity. And it's, and a lot of people afterwards were like, oh, that's a bit quick.
Even the people behind us were like, oh, right. And they were like, he seemed a bit grumpy. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not surprised, because he's also being treated like a factory.
Yeah, and also like the flash is really bright. And
he's super
getting
bright.
It flashed in his face every 20 to 30 seconds.
Like, I mean,
hours.
We were in group 3 for photos. That's 3 out of 4 groups. And there were like lots and lots of people meeting
like 3 till 4.
And that wasn't even sold out.
So it's like 1 or 2 flashes in your eyes, like every minute for like an hour. So it was like, it would be taxing, and you can understand how taxing it would be on someone. So, that, although it was really good, we're glad we did it, it was just a little bit of a shame in that regard.
Yeah.
Then after the Warwick Davis stuff, I think we...
Yeah, so we said hi to Wedge Antilles. Oh, then I got to meet... So I have this thing about Jar Jar, and I always make the joke about Darth Binkus.
I think it was after I told you about the script changes.
And when Mike first told me that Darth Binkus was a possibility of a thing, I've just clung to that idea, like the fact that there's like a Sith Lord and it's Jar Jar becomes a Sith Lord, and that's the it's like a conspiracy theory, isn't it, that Jar Jar Binks is actually a Sith, and that's the reason that he encourages people to give the Senator ultimate power.
Yep.
And it just makes me laugh. So it's a continuous joke now that Darth Binkus. And when we came to London on Thursday, my brother lives in London, so we went to my brother's house for dinner on Thursday, and I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna meet Darth Binkus, like as a fucking joke. And then today, as we're walking to go somewhere, I audibly gasp because I'm like
She didn't cough at that time. Cough. That was so over exaggerated that she actually made herself cough. Have a drink, you little weirdo.
Audibly gasp because who do I bloody see? Darth bloody Binkus.
Someone was
cosplaying as Darth Binkus, and I was just so ecstatic, to the point, right, that I gasped so loudly that a guy near me looked at me and I was like, oh my god, it's Darth Binkus. And then he looked at Darth Binkus and then started laughing, and then I had to go over and be like, can I have a picture with you please, because this is just fantastic. I also took a picture with someone who was dressed as a Wookiee, and that was a really cool cosplay. But yeah, then I messaged my brother being like, I just met Darth Binkus. Yeah. And he was like, what the fuck?
It was so good. And then we went to outside for a breather because it was it's a lot to deal with. Like it's quite stressful. In a good way, it is fun, but it is intense, as Megan said. So we went outside to have a breather and a chill. And Alex and Molly of Star Wars Explained, who obviously we had the pleasure of speaking with last year on the podcast, and they're lovely people, and Star Wars Explained is one of the reasons I started my Star Wars podcast. He inspired me.
And they recognised us.
Yeah, which was lovely.
Yeah, Molly was just like, I always recognise a couple.
Yeah.
Because that's different, and it makes me think of us. So she was like, I actually remember you.
Yeah, which was cool. So we went, they had a panel, but because the Warwick Davis photo was at the same time as the panel, we couldn't go to it.
But that was, their panel ended up being like fully
booked like 15 minutes before even.
So we probably wouldn't have even got into it. But
potentially not. But yeah, so we went to their meetup because they did like a fan meetup out the front of Star Wars Celebration at the XL Centre in the entrance. So we waited there for a little while, had a breather, had something to eat and things, and then
some of my sausage sandwiches.
Yeah.
I need to cook some more sausages for tomorrow.
Yeah, we can do that when I'm showering. A bit fun of admin there, life admin, not just podcast admin like I normally do. But yeah, that was cool. We spoke to them. Like we were waiting in the queue and things. It was like a circle queue.
Oh my god, it was chaotic. There was no order to it. They literally stood there and people
surrounded them
like hyenas.
But no one was
prey.
No one was pushing or being rude. That was the weird thing. Everyone was being like overly polite, which was actually kind of more annoying because there were these moments when someone said thank you and left, and it was like waiting for the next person to step forward.
I mean, when Mike managed to get in, he was like, "Can I just chip in here?"
Yeah, can I just push in? And no one else said anything because it's like a bunch of introverted nerds, which is fine. But and so I said, oh hi, and I was like, you may or may not remember us, but me and Megan, we actually had you on our podcast last year. It was genuine Chit-Chat, and so I was like, oh yeah, we remember you, blah blah. And I was like, just thank you again. It's so good to meet you in person, all that kind of stuff. And they were giving out pin badges as well, so we've got a couple of those. Which is cool.
I put them on my lanyard.
Yeah, and
with all my badges.
And we also, I tagged them in Instagram and they put it on their story, which is sweet. So really, really cool to meet those guys in person. They're such lovely people. The only thing is literally just, they need someone almost like me to be really loud near them and just be like, right, anyone who's here to meet Molly and Alex, let's get in a straight line. Let's be British about this. British know how to queue, okay? Just get in a straight line and then you'll get through people easy. If you're surrounded, it's just so hard.
It was chaos.
And we had to kind of,
I shoved my way through. There was a guy behind us with a fantastic mustache.
Oh, and it was like a tartan suit and things.
They were both really nice.
But very funny. They were making comments.
We overheard them talking about how people don't know how to queue. The people that aren't from England, or people that aren't from the UK, don't know how to queue. And I was like, yeah. And then I spoke about Italy not knowing how to queue because obviously I'm half Italian. And then when I started shoving in front of people, I was like, I'm using the half Italian side of me.
Like we weren't like aggressively.
I wasn't shoving in front of people. I was
gap.
kind of like filling the gaps like you do when you're trying to get to the front of a bar.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like that.
I was like, I'm not standing out here for hours to meet.
Well, especially because there was
Alex and Molly.
It was funny because the High Republic meetup thing was going to be an hour after Alex and Molly's meetup, but they were a little bit late getting there, which is fine because things get in the way and stuff. And
their panel finished at 4:30, and then I imagine people spoke to them at the end of the panel, and then where the meetup place was that they'd said, it was literally on the other side of the XL, which
with
is
no
quite...
crowds.
It's quite a hefty walk, especially when you're having to maneuver your way through
5-10 minutes without
streams of people.
Because we went there from the fan stage on the first day. It was like 5 or 10 minute walk from there without crowds. So with crowds, excluding even people stopping them to say hi and try and take photos, because Alex and Molly are so sweet, they wouldn't be like, no, sorry, we need to be somewhere. They will just stop and talk to anyone who wants to talk to them, which is fine because they're lovely people. But that was really cool. Then we saw the High Republic cosplay meetup and saw loads of people dressed up.
That guy
as
was
characters.
getting interviewed. What's his name? Michael
Siglane. He's the creative, the senior creative behind.
He was getting interviewed, and I deliberately walked behind him and then looked at the camera. So there might be a little snippet of me somewhere.
Yeah, on the internet. And then I got a cool photo with the person who played Venestra, who was cosplaying as Venestra, that we sat behind at the High Republic panel, because I wanted to say to her, because there were quite a few Venestra cosplayers, and I think she was probably the best one, and she
makeup was
really
good.
Embodied how I view Venestra, and from the small amount of concept art we have from that. So it was really cool
In the
saying hi
picture
to
that
her.
we saw of her, she was bald.
That's because
Is she always bald?
No. She has long purple hair, like you saw.
Yeah.
But in the books, she's a Jedi prodigy. So she's the youngest Jedi Knight ever. She's like 17 and a Jedi Knight, and the other people who grew up with her in the younglings in the temple, they're not even Jedi yet.
Right.
And she already has she took on a youngling.
Right.
Took on a Padawan. So there's one scene in one of the books where she's talking to a friend of hers, Reith Silas, and he's still a Padawan, and she has a Padawan learner.
Yeah.
And he's a bit like, God, I don't know how I'm going to ever live up to her, because she's so above anyone else. She's I think she's the youngest Jedi Knight in centuries. And if you think Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace was 25, and she's 8 years younger than him and already has a Padawan. So
Yeah.
So I think that when
It's the first Seeker in a century.
when we see her in nice Harry Potter reference, when we see her in the Acolyte, it's decades afterwards, and it's meant to show her matured. It's a bit like Ezra in Rebels. He shaves all his hair off in series 3.
Yeah.
But that was just really cool. And then by that point, it was 5-ish.
At that point, so where we'd gone outside to go and do the meet and greet type thing with Alex and Molly from Star Wars Explained, you leave the XL, and in order to get back in, you essentially have to loop around the entire thing again. Mike was like, can we go to the... Well, you mentioned earlier, before we go, can we go to the loo? And then we were both like, well, yeah, let's just go to the train station. We'll just go now.
And then we came back, had some food.
Came back, had some food. I had to cook rice in the microwave.
Yeah, because we haven't got the bloody oven here or anything, or hob or anything. Just one microwave oven. And then we had some food and started recording. So that has been a roundup of day 2.
Yeah,
so
I didn't buy any merch today, did I?
No, you got a sticker.
Oh yeah, I got a free sticker.
You got quite a few photos actually of cosplayers.
I did get a few photos.
I got
of
one with
cosplayers.
Dr. Afra, or a Dr. Afra cosplayer.
Oh yeah, I got a
and one
picture with an
Venestra.
Ewok as well, but that Ewok is a bit creepy.
Yeah, giant bug eyes, which is one
Well,
thing.
not only was he giant bug eyes, but also when I say he, I'm assuming it was a he. I don't know, because that person was in an Ewok costume. Just the position of their arm and hand when they took the picture with me.
Bit too low.
It was a bit too low for my liking. When they put their arm around me, I was like, not sure I'm liking the positioning of your arm, but it could have just been accidental.
Or restriction of the outfit.
Or
but it was
restriction of the outfit.
Probably being a bit of a perv. Unfortunately. But yeah, got loads of cool pictures of cosplayers. Megan saw Darth Binkus, which was funny.
I'm so fucking excited to see Darth Binkus.
Lots of great
I
things.
cannot express the amount of joy that I had when I saw Darth Binkus, because I just think it's a joke.
Yeah.
I just think it's a hilarious joke. I'm adamant that Jar Jar is Darth Binkus, because no one's that stupid. You can't go from being Jar Jar in episode 1 to suddenly having all of the power to give to Senator Palpatine. He's Darth Binkus. I just think it's so funny. Seeing Darth Binkus is probably the highlight for me so far. Obviously, meeting Warwick Davis is definitely the highlight, but out of cosplayers, seeing Darth Binkus, just because of the lunacy and
unexpectedness.
The unexpectedness of seeing Darth Binkus, because as I said, when I mentioned it, I've always adamantly said, as a joke, I'm going to meet Darth Binkus.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The one thing that will make this whole weekend complete is if I see someone dressed as Kit Fisto.
Yeah.
And
or an Ortolan. But
or just an
Ortolan.
yeah. I will. My head will explode.
Yeah, that would be so cool if you get a photo with someone who does that. I just knocked the mic, so sorry guys. But yeah, it was a really fun day. Today was my favourite day of the 2 so far. Yesterday was great, got to see Andor, all that kind of stuff. But yesterday was just a lot. Whereas after
I
having...
feel less tired today than I did yesterday.
Even though we got up way earlier and all that stuff.
I found yesterday more exhausting than today. But I don't know if that's just me getting into the swing of being at a convention. Yesterday was quite overwhelming for me.
Well, I'd say if people have... Because I've been to Star Wars Celebration before and I've been to lots of other conventions and I'm generally all right in crowds. But even me, at times I was a bit like, this is a bit much. But with Celebration or any other Comic Cons or anything, if anyone has not been before especially, or if you have been before or anything, I'd always recommend where possible going for 2 days at least, because the first day is really just kind of making your way. It's almost like when you go on holiday. When you go on holiday,
it would be a lot of cramming in if you only go for 1 day.
And I did it for 1 day last time.
I mean, just queuing up for the official merch area took about 50 minutes to an hour yesterday.
It was like an hour and a half in total from starting to queue to actually leaving after buying. It was like an hour and a half just to buy some merch. And like pretty much everything you want to do there, you have to be queuing for like an hour before. So it's like, it's not enough time. And doing it for 2 days, it's kind of like a holiday. When you go to a new place, the first day you're there, you don't really do much. You're just kind of wandering around and getting your bearings, like adjusting to stuff. And that's what a convention is like. Because like after we've been there, we now know where everything is. But the first day, it was like, where the hell is this thing? Where's this thing? Where's this thing? I want this. I want that. I need to buy merch. So I'd always recommend to people do 2 days at least.
And I mean, there's so much stuff that we still haven't done. Like, we haven't gone to the Funko Pop area.
Or the Lego area.
And we haven't been to the Lego area.
And we've only looked around the merch stuff once because it was so much to deal with, and I kind of want to see if I can get any more Rebel stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be going to the official merch store again because
no.
Because Mike's got a Lightspeed ticket, I didn't get one, so I've done my slot at the merch store. So if I want anything, I'll just ask Mike to get it when he goes tomorrow.
Yeah,
with Mitchell, but
because a friend of ours is joining us tomorrow.
But yeah, I'd like to go around the other things, and I think there's one shopping area that we've still not been to yet.
Yeah, because when we
haven't
came
had
out,
a proper look at.
When we came out of the High Republic panel, we came out of that area and we hadn't really been around there much. I think on Monday it'll be because Monday all I really want to do is get some signed stuff by the High Republic authors, potentially see the Bad Batch panel in the morning, and aside from that, I'll just kind of wander about and like have the last kind of things, because also Monday's going to be the least busy and it's not sold out either. But yeah, really fun day. This is my favourite so far. Lots of unexpected cool things. Really great fun. I got in the High Republic panel, which is the one thing I wanted. Mega met Darth Binkus. Got some stickers. Like it was just a really, really cool fun day. This was like the epitome. Apart from just the Ahsoka thing, that was the only letdown, and the brief thing of Warwick Davis. But even waiting in the queue with those people, and like today we spoke to so many different people.
Yeah.
And even though that guy in the queue for Ahsoka was a bit annoying, he wasn't like mean or anything.
And then there was that other guy that just jumped in on the conversation, was like, "Did I hear you're from Southampton?" And we were like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I'm also from Southampton." And we were like, "All right, hi."
People are just nice, and it's nice to be surrounded by lots of people who are really passionate about Star Wars. Even though when I talk to people, I realise I know quite a lot more about Star Wars than a lot of others.
The thing is that I also feel like that though. Like, I've overheard people being like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, it's Ahsoka. Like, there's fucking shit tons of us. There was so many people dressed up as Ahsoka.
Oh
today.
yeah, well, especially at the ending when we were outside waiting for Alex and Molly. There was like the whole group.
There was like a group of like 10 Ahsokas,
and there were like another 10 wandering around and stuff. But
I mean, it's good for you because it means that you can get lots of the nerdy Star Wars stuff out that you don't necessarily always get to have conversations with me about. But I do know a surprising amount of...
You recognise a lot of cosplayers. Like, cosplay, the people you're like, oh my god, it's Fennec Shand. I mean... Well, you said Shennick Fan, but it's pretty close.
I always say Shennick Fan, and as soon as I say it, I know that it's wrong. Like... Yeah, there were very niche costumes that I was able to be like, oh, that's that person. I know who that is. But yeah, like even just talking to some people, like the two guys in the queue,
who were lovely, Ken and Jamie, shout out to them. They were such cool guys.
I think I've watched more Star Wars content than they have.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like just by some of the conversations.
Well, maybe not. Sorry if you have seen more. Sorry,
Ken and Jamie. But yeah, it was.
You were great.
Yeah, it was such a nice day, and just all the people we interacted with were so fun. Be it the German guy Daniel of the Buckethead podcast, be it Kieran of the Avalon Legion, like all these people we spoke to, really cool. A great fun day. This day really showed the kind of thing that
even that guy that we were talking to in the queue for Costa.
Oh yeah, he was a nice guy. He's like an older gentleman, and he just nice.
Overheard our conversation and was like, "Oh, they're doing this outside later on. If you're looking specifically for this."
Yeah,
and then we were like, "Have you seen anyone dressed as Kit Fisto?" And he was like, "I know people that do cosplay for Kit Fisto, but I don't know if they brought their stuff."
It's a hard cosplay to do. It's very hard to do. Lots of Twi'leks, which have 2 Leku, but an Ortolan has like 8 to 10 tentacles normally. So
okay, well that's what my mission is. I want to find someone dressed as
Kit Fisto. We've got 2 more days. I forgot to mention to you, with the Tales of the Jedi, it's been announced they're doing a series 2 for that, which is unsurprising because and some of the people on the Twitter, they were commenting saying, "I'm waiting for this guy's Tales of the Jedi," and people posting gifs of Kit Fisto. Can you imagine if you've got a Kit Fisto Tales of the Jedi?
I'd be so happy.
I don't think you will. I think we'll get Quinn and Voss.
He's my bae.
But yeah, so tomorrow we've got a Villains of the Sequel Trilogy panel, and we've got a few other bits and pieces. Megan's probably going to go to like a Star Wars teacher panel, which is going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, it's like discovering Star Wars in the classroom.
Just while me and Mitch will go to the Lightspeed lane of the Celebration store.
Yeah, I'd rather be doing something than just be
waiting with us.
stood waiting around.
Yeah, exactly. And then I've got a few more signing things to do, but it should be a really fun day tomorrow again. Really excited, and today was just such a blast. It was just so really much fun. So yeah, that's the end. I'll be releasing this on the on 3 different podcast feeds actually.
Whoa, 4.
Or including the YouTube, yeah. So it's going to be the Genuine Chit-Chat YouTube channel, Genuine Chit-Chat podcast, Star Wars Comics and Canon podcast on its own feed, and also the Star Wars Comics and Canon podcast on the feed of Comics in Motion. So all those places. It's going to be a little bit of admin for me to do tonight, but yeah, these are the first 2 days of Celebration and our little pre-ramble of Celebration when we're waiting in the queue, and then we'll record our thoughts. I may do another one after Sunday and have that as its own thing, and then another one on the Monday, or I might do the 2 for Sunday, Monday together. I do not know. We'll figure it out. But friends, I hope you enjoyed this very long, rambly discussion on Star Wars Celebration. Not concise at all. Maybe didn't even tell you any new information, but we told you our experience, and that's part of the fun. Yeah. If you enjoyed this, please consider going to patreon.com/genuinechitchat, because you get this kind of thing when we go on holidays, when we go see live performances, when we see movies, TV shows, all kinds of things.
I now need to just figure out what order of my new t-shirts I'm going to wear. I deliberately bought 2 new t-shirts, so I had a different Star Wars t-shirt for each day.
Yeah.
So I've got my Camp Endor one, and I've got... What was the other one? Oh, the Twin Suns one.
Yes, which is really cool. And I put pictures of them.
I think I'm going to wear Camp Endor tomorrow.
Yeah, I put pictures of them on social media yesterday as well, and I got a really cool Max Rebo one. So that's my 9th Star Wars t-shirt, so I need to not really buy anymore.
I might get another t-shirt tomorrow, but it depends on if they have it in my size, which is this really cool Ahsoka one.
But we'll see. We'll see if they don't have it there. We'll see if they've got it in Redbubble. But still, friends, we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much.
And may the Force be with you.
Oh, you stole my line, but yes.
Sabacc.
May the Force be with you.
You have just experienced host, creator, everything elser of Genuine Chit-Chat, and also the host and creator of Star Wars Comics and Canon, found on the Comics in Motion podcast, Mike Burton.